Governor, what is your forward guidance?
Well, what we're trying to do is provide greater certainty to households and businesses. We're saying that the Bank of England expects to keep interest rates low until unemployment at least reaches 7%, at which point we would take an assessment of the situation. And to give you a bit of a sense of what that means, the unemployment rate currently is just a little less than 8% right now. It's 7.8%. Our best estimate of the outlook for the UK economy is that unemployment is as likely to get to 7% beyond the 3-year horizon that we forecast the economy as it is before. And actually that requires the creation of about 750,000 new jobs. So this is something we're giving guidance to provide greater certainty, and it's on a variable, unemployment, that people care about and that they can measure and keep track of.
But you've got 3 get-out clauses, which rather complicate matters. Simple up until that point, as you've described, but then you've got these 3 knockout clauses.
Well, we have a discipline around this, as you would expect. Our primary responsibility is to deliver price stability. That is to bring inflation to the 2% target. It's been above that target for some time. This is really about over what horizon do we bring inflation back in a manner that supports growth and employment in the UK economy. So we aren't going to take risks with inflation. That's why we have 2 so-called knockouts around price stability. And we're not going to take risks with financial stability, the overall financial environment in the economy. But we can do that. We can manage all that. And our forecast is that we will do that and deliver better employment activity outcomes while getting inflation back to target over the next couple of years.
But it rather weakens the message, doesn't it? It's not the sort of thing that you can say, as the competitions do, in 12 words or fewer, explain what your guidance policy is.
Well, the core of the policy is to provide the certainty that there's a real economic outcome that you and I, people watching, we can all understand, which is what is the unemployment rate. Until that unemployment rate gets down to 7%, expect interest rates to remain as low as they are for that period of time.
But I wonder whether, given that these knockout clauses include inflation expectations, financial stability, that you're expecting every borrower in the UK either to have a degree in economics and or to start slavishly following economic data.
Well, the financial stability judgments made by the Financial Policy Committee of the Bank of England, and it's something that would only happen after all other policy mechanisms have been exhausted. So whether it's bank capital, whether it's specific rules in the mortgage industry, whether a variety of things that can be done. This is really the last line of defense to take that judgment. On the inflation side, you have the Bank of England to do the job for you. We provide the inflation forecast. 4 times a year, you very generously come to our press conferences. Everyone can get our reports online. We'll mail them out to you if you want them. And we provide that forecast. We have 9 members of the Monetary Policy Committee. They make their best judgments of what that inflation forecast is. That's going to determine it. And then the last one, inflation expectations. Inflation expectations are well anchored in the United Kingdom. There's a variety of measures. We've set out what those measures are. But in essence, what this comes back to is that until we see material progress, material growth in this economy that leads to job creation, the Bank of England is not going to even begin to consider raising interest rates until that point. And that point, we've specified very clearly today, is an unemployment rate of 7%.
And in your forecast, you say that rate, 7%, is likely to be reached from the middle towards the end of 2016. So putting all this together, that commitment, plus you've just set out the great and good at the bank who are making these inflation forecasts and so on. If somebody is watching this and they are about to make a big decision about borrowing, putting all of those things together, are you telling them that by your best estimate, they should be safe in expecting interest rates to stay where they are until the middle towards the end of 2016?
Well, certainly what has changed from today versus yesterday or previous months is that there's a much higher degree of certainty about where the likely path of interest rates are going to go. And so that individual or that business, if they're considering an investment, a lot of this is about businesses that have been subject to a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty has held back investment. We're trying to provide greater certainty to those businesses, that they can expect that interest rates are going to stay low for a considerable period of time.
Until the middle or the end of 2016?
Well, not specific, but we're not, this is an important point. This is about actual economic outcomes. We're not making a promise or any sort of guarantee in a
But at the
point in
moment,
time.
you think that unemployment will reach that level where you say you might then consider raising interest rates around third quarter of 2016?
There is a range of possibilities of when unemployment reaches that level. I think we would all be happy, we'd all be pleased if we could lower the rate of unemployment by creating more jobs sooner rather than later. And if that happens, then the MPC, the Bank of England, will have to take a judgment at that point in time what we do with monetary policy. But that is an environment. But Richard, that is an environment where there's positive outcomes in the economy. That's an environment where investment decisions that could be made today make arguably even more sense in that environment because there's underlying growth and job creation that are supporting that improvement in unemployment that happens sooner. But we'll have to see.
In the most simple terms. In the
most simple terms, over the next 3 years, we need more than 750,000 jobs in order to reach that. That is not something that happens overnight. You can come back, we can talk every month as the unemployment figures come out. That's maybe an extreme promise the media won't like, but you can monitor this on a monthly basis and see how many jobs we're creating, where the unemployment rate is going, and that will give a sense of when we approach a threshold, which is a threshold, it's not a trigger, a threshold, a point at which the Bank of England, its Monetary Policy Committee, begins to consider whether or not it's appropriate to tighten monetary policy.
You say it will give you a sense, and I wonder why you've chosen unemployment as the one figure that you're going to hang all this off, because it's a very peculiar measure of the economy, because it's defied most economists' predictions throughout the recession, because it has remained relatively high. So it's not actually measuring what's going on in the economy.
It is measuring something that's going on, is that there's real jobs being created for real people. That's the first thing. The second is exactly this aspect, that it is, there has been more job creation, which is a positive thing without question, than one would have expected given how poor the economy has done. And what we're trying to do, and what we're going to do, is we're going to test that to see to what extent is there unused capacity in firms. We think that there's a fair bit, but we'll see it. To what extent is there additional productivity gains that can help those workers earn higher wages?
So this is a living experiment. You're saying we're going to see. I mean, we've gone through a period where we know the economy was in dire straits, and we seem to be coming out of it. And yet unemployment, which is higher than it should be, hasn't really been as sky high as one might have expected. Well, so the two aren't really related, are they?
They are related. They're related in a couple of ways. They're related certainly to the core mandate of the Bank of England, which is to deliver price stability. We have 1 million more people out of work today than were employed during the recovery. That number, the number of people who want jobs, grows by the day. More people enter the labor force. The difference between the number of people who want to work, who are ready to work, and are working has an implication for the outlook for inflation, which is our primary responsibility. What we're saying today with this guidance is there's a lot of unused capacity in the labor market. There's a lot more people in this country who want to work. There's a lot of people who are working who want to work more. On top of that, there is unused capacity in firms. There's production lines that aren't running full out. There's new ideas that can be put in place. There's investments that can be done. There's a lot more that can be done there. And we need to see, we have so much slack in the economy. If we add those two together, we have so much slack that we can afford to wait until unemployment goes from just under 8% where it is today to 7% before we even consider withdrawing the considerable monetary stimulus which is in place. And considerable monetary stimulus, low interest rates, and the asset purchases, funding for lending, all those things which themselves are helping to support this recovery, which has really just begun to gain traction.
What is this policy going to achieve, given that the economy already seems to be on the recovery track?
Well, we'd expect a little more ambition from you, Richard, in terms of the recovery track. We have a forecast which we've significantly increased, but that forecast only gets growth 2 years out to just below historic averages. There's
what will your policy actually achieve?
It does a couple of things.
Can you measure what that is? If you're talking about ambition,
yeah.
you're the one with ambition.
Well,
what will that be?
One of the things it does is it reinforces our forecast that we've just put out is based on a constant rate path, that we keep the same amount of assets, and that, as an assumption, just as an assumption, that interest rates remain at current levels for the next 3 years. So that's part of what supports the forecast here. But what this policy does, it's a complement to all the other things. What it does is it helps make them more effective. It helps make bank rate at 0.5% more effective because it provides greater certainty. It doesn't provide perfect certainty. It provides greater certainty. It provides something measurable that individuals, that businesses can look at, the unemployment rate, see how much progress we're making in this economy relative to that before they have to consider the possibility that the Bank of England will start to withdraw monetary policy stimulus. And we're doing all that in a way that helps protect, at the same time, price and financial stability.
So you mentioned no certainty. It requires a little bit of luck. Are you lucky?
We don't look for luck, we look for the right economic outcomes for this economy.
Governor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.